Hey, everybody. What's up, y'all? It's Successful But Single podcast where we're doing our thing without a ring. We are live and in color, y'all. And welcome to season 2, y'all. We've been having a great time. We kicked off season 1 just talking and sharing different success stories from different successful unmarried people so they could have a boo, right? Or a bae. And that was okay, right? So we talked about that our first season. We had a phenomenal time. You can always go back to any of our platforms and check out those previous shows. And season 2, y'all, we're just gonna start digging in deep. We're gonna dig. We have been digging in deep. We started with talking with different professionals. Actually, our season 2 kicked off with outrage of the Oscars, right? That infamous slap, by Will Smith, the Chris Rock, right? That's how we started off this season because we wanted to talk about the outrage at the Oscars. We wanted to talk about anger. So this season 2, y'all, we're going to be diving deep into emotions. We're going to be diving deep into singleness and just relationships in general and how we really can prepare ourselves just to be awesome, right? So without further ado, we just going to jump on in. You can see 2 lovely people have joined me this evening. We have Mr. Benja. We have Colleen Kavanaugh, y'all. And so we're just going to have a great time. If you're just tuning in, y'all, just go ahead and say, hey. Say, hey, what's up? Tell us where you are watching us from. Go ahead and just share this to your page, y'all, because we're going to be talking all about preferences. Y'all know we all have opinions when it comes to preferences and whether we're considered being picky if we want to talk about what we prefer. So we got to talk about it, y'all. And so we're going to jump right in again. Share, like. Let's talk. This is the pod chat for Successful But Single podcast where we're doing our thing without a ring. I am your host, Natalie Freeman. And y'all, come on. We're about to talk to our guests, but let's introduce them first. But what I like to do on my podcast, I like to let the people tell you what they want you to know about them. Because, I have their bio. They may not want you to know all that. Or they may have a little other things going on today that they just feel like they got to share. You know what I mean? It's kind of like open mic. So we're going to talk to them right now. So ladies, first we have Miss Colleen Kavanaugh. Colleen, hey girl.
Hey.
What do you want the girl to know about you?
Hey, well, thank you for letting me be on your podcast. I am honored to be a guest here. So I really appreciate that, Natalie. And I look forward to chit-chatting about our topic. I don't, people, you know what? I don't care what people, I guess, need to know about me. They can go to my Facebook page or my bio on my website, and they can read all about me. I guess all you need to know is I'm in Tampa, Florida, and I'm a realtor here. And I also love personal and professional development. I also have a podcast. It's called the Cultivate Your Success podcast. So if you like podcasts and you like personal development, check that out. And I'm just excited. I'm single, of course, but, dating and just having fun learning in different relationships. And I really enjoy your podcast and your Facebook group. So if you're listening to this, make sure you join in and just commute and have some fun interacting with us on the Facebook group. So yes, I put that post out and I'm so glad. This will be an interesting topic. Thank you for having me.
Oh yeah, this is great. And y'all, the reason we're having this podcast tonight is because of Colleen. She posted a question in the page. It really got some great feedback. And she said, you know what, we should probably chat about this live. I was like, you know what, great idea. Let's do it. So this is how we got here tonight, talking about the pros and cons of preferences. But y'all, I also have to give publicly kudos to Miss Colleen because honestly, without Colleen Kavanaugh and her know-how, there would be no Successful Single podcast. That's right. In 2020, when this podcast jumped off, I had no clue what it meant to start a podcast, do a podcast. I didn't even know how to spell podcast, right? Well, kind of, you know what I mean? So I met Colleen at a networking event here in the Tampa Bay area. We were just, hobnobbing, and she told me what she did and how she's a speaker and a professional development professional, right? Extraordinaire. And she told me, she's like, you know what? I have a YouTube video about how to start a podcast. Y'all, I read it. I watched it. I went back and forth over and over again. And that's how this podcast started, like literally, y'all. So again, she's effective in what she does, not just on the stage and off the stage. She is a well-known speaker here in the area. also a real estate professional, y'all. You know how singles do it, y'all. We do multiple things and we do it well. So, Colleen, thank you again
Well,
because it
thank
wasn't
you for the shout
you.
out. I completely forgot about that you had
Yes,
watched my
girl.
webinar, and all of a sudden you have this amazing podcast that's getting more downloads than mine. I'm like, okay, I'm doing something wrong, but that's great.
No, you're doing
I'm so
something
excited.
right. When you can create content that people can follow and it surpasses what you have done, I call that success, baby.
That's
Boom.
true. Okay, good. Yes. All right.
Yes.
Excellent,
And
excellent.
my other friend, Mr. Benja, how you doing?
I am doing excellent, Natalie. Thank you for having me on. Um, this is not usually what I talk about, but because it got brought up in the discussion boards, I guess I opened myself up to it. I'm here and supporting.
He opened his mouth, y'all, and that's how he got on this show. So, y'all, so Benja is also a podcaster, but he's a creative. If you go back to season 1, you will hear about his story. 8-bit cubist is kind of his handle, his hinge. He was a video game developer, starting out. He's just kind of opened the door. And what I love about Benja, he is an introvert, but he has learned how to maneuver in this extroverted world. And correct me if I'm wrong, right, Benja? But he's out here, he's doing his thing,
Yeah.
y'all. He's doing it well. He has his own podcast, Show versus Business. I think that's one of his podcasts. Y'all know he does so much. He has, art pieces and galleries. He even, has the lifestyle art, which is what I call it, one of my favorite tees. I rock it so much now, it has a hole in it right here, from him. So both of you, please go in the comments, put your handles, put your podcast, your blogs, put your YouTube videos, however you want to tag people. Go ahead. Let them know how to get in touch with y'all because these people are phenomenal. And last but not least about Ben, y'all, I've known him since middle school.
Yeah, that was it. That was it. It was
Yeah, so middle
middle
school,
school.
and so he, I feel like he is kind of one of my first supporters. You know what I mean? And awesome friend. So Ben, thank you again for hanging in here with me this long. And I support you on your journey, man. So, good to hear. Good to have you both. So, y'all, again, welcome, welcome, welcome. We're gonna jump right in, continue to share this. Y'all like it. We about to get in. I know y'all have opinions about preferences, so we're gonna go ahead and jump right in and talk about it. So, Colleen, why did you even put this question out in the page? Because you were like, am I being picky? Were you kind of doing some self, were you doing some introspection or were you trying to
Mhm.
figure out why you still single? Like, why did you post this question in the group at all about our preferences being picky?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I know there's no one perfect out there, right? None of us are perfect. And I guess the question is, it's such a fine line between, am I being too picky, or is it, I don't want to settle, or we don't want to settle for something and lower our standards, okay, and then we end up in a divorce because so I guess my question was, where do you
Or
find the
stuck
balance?
with somebody
Yeah, or just
because of
and
your
I remember
preferences?
saying, is there some sort of formula? And I'm just, but yeah, I posted that because it is some deep introspection. Why am I single? And I know at one point I definitely was really picky with certain things. So I have been now, after a few years of, more maturity, of course, I'm more flexible in those specific areas. So, but again, still, where do you draw that line? So yeah, introspective and a current dating situation that led me to want to post that. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we're gonna ask you about that later because I'm gonna be straight nosy tonight and just kind of get all
No,
up in your
we don't.
business.
I was gonna say,
But
maybe we
so
should talk about.
before we get there, Ben, we're just gonna kind of roll it
Yes.
back and just
Let's
ask a
go.
general question. So, like Ben, aren't preferences just the way of the world, right? Because if we didn't have preferences, wouldn't we all drink the same water? Wouldn't we all drive the same car? Wouldn't we all live in the same city? So, like, why is even having preferences a thing? Like, why is a thing for even discussion?
I suppose I am the person who kind of in the comments in that post who kind of pushed back on the idea of these preferences and being picky. And this is a personal thing. So obviously, I'm not ever giving relationship advice that's just for everybody. But I found that my what I called preferences was kind of holding me back. And
Mm,
I got this as you said earlier, I'm a designer and developer. I actually got this from my work where I'd be working on something and I thought I had a preference for it one way. Uh, materials came in, they worked differently. The time or the expense or the audience, whatever, something happened. I just had to work with what I had. And I started
mm-hmm.
questioning just my preferences and development. So then I started asking, well, why do these people want things this way and want things that way? And what's interesting is all of a sudden I'm in a situation now where I'm like, wait a minute, why am I not applying that to my life and what I think about? Why do I like this in this certain way? Why do I like
If you
this
go back
certain
to
thing?
season one, you will hear about his story. Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
8-bit cubist is kind of
So
his
that is what
ancestor.
happened there.
He was a video game
Okay.
developer.
I
You
think
know,
we got some
starting
feedback.
out.
Is that me? Y'all know me and my
Yeah.
my technical issues.
So that is what happened there.
He was a video game
Okay.
developer. You know,
Is that
starting
me
out.
or
Y'all know
is
me and
the
my
feedback coming from me?
technical issues. So
I
that is
believe it's on your side.
there.
I don't know. Did somebody turn on their
That might have been me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we have. If you turn it on, you have to put the volume way down, y'all. So y'all know how we do here. It's real and raw.
That's right.
We just enough to be dangerous as far as the technical side. So yeah, if you do turn it on, Colleen, to answer questions or share, you got to turn your volume on your device all the way down.
Okay.
But you're right, Ben. It kind of starts right, in our jobs and things like that. Because I mean, the people who hire us, they have preferences, right, about what they want. The people, who are doing work for our clients, a lot of us are self-employed, right? They have preferences. And then you turn around and be like, okay, well, should I be establishing some of these lists and things like that? You know what I mean? But it hasn't, like you said, you pushed back a little bit, Ben. Did it hold you back? Is it stifling you? Is it stifling the people around you because you're juxtaposing your preferences or what you prefer against how they are or how they should be?
Oh yeah, that was exactly it. I've done a lot of computer programming, and you have to be very exact and specific. So in doing that, I found myself translating that into just how I dealt with people and relationships. And at some point, I had to say, I'm particular, but don't worry, that has nothing to do with you. You be
Mm,
you. And letting people be themselves, at least for me, it got a much better response. And it was something I actively had to let people know. It's like, hey, I like things very particular. I was a computer programmer since elementary school. Just do your thing. It doesn't it doesn't bother me. If I don't get into I've been trying just to let go of a lot of these picky things that have been ingrained into me. And I felt that I may have swung way to the hey, anything goes kind of deal, but
mhm.
I think it's opened me up to a lot of new experiences, and it really has helped me internally, and not so much trying to fix the other or make sure the other person is what I'm looking for. If that makes any sense, it's fixing
Yeah,
me.
absolutely. Absolutely. And Colleen, feel free to jump on in here if you want to have any follow-up questions for Ben or myself.
Mm-hmm.
But he was saying, he kind of swung to the other side of the pendulum where, you know, he's like, I have preferences, and correct me if I say this incorrectly, Ben. However, this has nothing to do with you. This is all to do with me. You do you. You know what I mean? And have you found, Colleen, that having preferences or having things that you prefer, like people don't realize that, that's on you, that's personal. And did you find people being turned off because you had the preferences?
Not really. I'm trying to think here. For the most part, everybody understood the preferences because I wouldn't have even been on a date with them if they didn't meet most of my preferences to begin with. So I wouldn't want to
Mm-hmm.
offend anybody if they, didn't meet the majority of what I was looking for. Because if I go out on a date, I'm going to make sure I talk to them first on the telephone a few times, get to know them, then I can definitely weed out a few things that I know aren't going to work automatically, and then I won't even meet up with them. And if their pictures are accurate, which I haven't had any problems, pretty much everybody has looked like their pictures. So so that's been good. I wasn't surprised on that. Now I know I've heard some horror stories on the other side from the men where they're surprised and this different woman shows up, but I've been lucky that way, I guess.
Ben, have you ever been catfished, or have you ever been on any blind dates?
Yes, but I actually haven't run into any like major switcheroos or catfish situations or anybody really lying to me. And maybe I should definitely put aside serious red flags. If they're just serious red flags, obviously I don't even count that as a preference. That's just a safety and well-being issue. It's
Right.
like, why would you bother with someone that has expressly said something that's in a different direction that you're going? So I don't know, Colleen, if you were including red flags in your preferences discussion or not, but I mean,
Yeah, red flags. Sometimes you don't see those until you're, a month or couple months in. Sometimes things appear, or in a case that I've had in a past relationship, I overlooked them. I might have noticed that it was kind of a flag, that was waving. Maybe it was just like pink or something. Maybe it wasn't bright red, but I wanted to give the person a chance. Again, this is where I have improved lately over the last couple of years. I want to push through what I think could be a bad thing or red flag and just get to know them a little bit more. Where in the past, I'll be honest, I would cut them off, bam, right away. We're done after whatever, a few weeks or a couple months. Okay, done. But now, this is an improvement for me. I will try to push through and make sure that I'm giving them full opportunity. And again, kind of having some leeway, because of course no one's perfect, and just trying to, deal with it and be as patient as I can and see if someone's going to change. But I actually had to Google this. I Googled this, Natalie, and Benja, because I really wanted to know. And it was a really good YouTube video. I forgot who it was, but I can share with you some of these things. But one of the things where what the signs were, if you knew you were settling, and one of the things was you would hope that this person will change. Okay. So if you're seeing that you want this person to change, that means you might be settling because you can't accept them for who they are. So I thought that was a good point.
Definitely. So let's just stop there for a minute, because I know we have some comments in the chats, y'all. I mean, hey, are you picky? Or are your preferences, you know what I mean, how you position yourself to be in a successful relationship? Y'all drop your comments below. Let us know how you feel about preferences. And we already had a comment in here, Ben. Desiree Nelson wanted to know, is that our Ben?
What's up, Desiree?
Yep, that he is the one. He is the one. He is the one. So y'all, how you feeling out here in comment land? Are you agreeing that preferences, are needed? Like, it's just a part of who our personality. It's a part of our makeup. It's how we define our standards of where we live, what water we want to drink, right? Carbonated, non-carbonated, Pellegrino, Dasani. Y'all drinking Dasani? It's not the best. Okay, you know what I mean? And who you want to date. Females, males, you know what I mean? Older, younger, money, no money.
So I got a question.
Somebody said they're picky. they're picky now. So tell us about being picky. Is that I'm looking in the comments. Nancy says she's picky. So Nancy does, but how is that working for you though? Is Picky meaning, you're particular, or all these preferences that help you be successful in life? Drop it in the comments, y'all. Let's hear from you.
Mm.
Todd Smith says, several times I have been misled by women on first dates by them using other pictures, usually from when they were much thinner. Yeah. Prior to them gaining weight. So their preference was not to be authentic.
Yes, that sounds
Well,
right.
if that was my best picture, sometimes I kind of leave it out there. I didn't mean to take, anyway, I'm not even about to try to stand up for them, y'all. Y'all don't do that. Why do we do that? Why are we catfishing people? And at some point you're going to have to meet, right, y'all? Okay. So, oh God, y'all, thank you all for coming and watching. If you're watching, please share this to your page. We're talking about preferences, the pros and cons of preferences. I was just trying to grab some of the comments, right now. Hey, Christine. Hey, Ben. Hey, y'all, come on in. Thank you for watching, and keep it coming. Keep us coming. Okay, so Nancy, because, I kind of picked on her. She said, picky means I am particular. I'm also more cautious, right? So we're going back to being able to identify those red flags. But I think it's not that I'm picky. It's that I am very confident in myself, and that person needs to compliment me. Absolutely. Absolutely, y'all. So when we talk about preferences, we're really just talking about things we favor, right? And one thing I like that Ben said was, and I keep going back to this, it's not, don't take it personal. This is what I like. And sometimes in the dating phase, y'all, we don't give people an opportunity to share what they like. We're already cutting them off because it doesn't meet our criteria, instead of being open to, meet people. How do you, and I'm trying to save this question to the end, so I'll just keep going. But I'll go back to me. Like for me, y'all, I started out very picky. I kind of swung from one pendulum to the other. I mean, I had that list, right? And I think that's just my personality, me being that A type, me being an accountant, process oriented, and all that kind of stuff. So I had a list. And if you didn't, check off everything on that list, yeah, no time wasted. I was like, okay, thanks, but no thanks. Right? But then, y'all, as you get older, y'all tell me if this is your situation. As you get older, those preferences kind of start to, evolve and, manifest differently, right?
Yes.
What you say, Ben?
No, they definitely evolve and manifest differently. I don't know if I want to. If you, I want you to finish your thought, but I had a.
Yeah, well, again, so I was just saying, as I begin to evolve, then I was like, well, am I missing out? Because I think I know what I want. You know how it is when you're a certain age, you really think you know what you want. If we truth be told, it's a lot of times we're growing up, when we're in our teens and our 20s, we don't know what we want, right? But we're still trying to make decisions based on what we think we know. And so, y'all, I mean, I have been all over the gamut. I've become very loose in my list. I've dated white collar, blue collar, young men, old men, you know what I mean? Men with money. Yes, I even did have a girlfriend at one time, right? Because I'm just trying to figure this thing out, right? So as I get older, though, y'all, I will tell you, I do have preferences. However, I'm learning, though, sometimes people coming into your sphere help you define what's best for you. Because they bring something to the table that sometimes you don't really even know you need until you allow them into your space. So Ben, what were you trying to say?
That's an excellent point. Not seeing what's out there, but going out and experiencing different types of people with their different energies, their different presentations, and I think over time we get so tunnel visioned into I'm still going for this that we miss a lot of things. And that's what I think was happening to me a lot. And once again, this went back to me sitting around developing products and realizing something about myself. I had a situation where I was working and the audience that was looking at my project was completely different than what I thought I was creating for.
Mm.
So once again, it got me thinking, well, what is it that I'm wanting versus what am I attracting? Why are these people finding me interesting to talk to at Target? Why are these people finding me a nice person to have a drink with on a Friday night? Why am I attracting these types of people and individuals? And then once again, that started taking it back to me. I started asking, well, what am I doing that's bringing this out? Why do people respond to this to me in certain ways?
Mm.
So it wasn't about
That's good.
just tolerating just tolerating anything, or letting yourself be leaving yourself open to dangerous or dumb situations. Not at all, but really starting to question, like, hmm, this complete moron thinks he has a chance with me. Why is that even a thing? How did what made him think it was the right way? And of course, you're going to get, this is definitely different from the women's perspective. You're going to get a lot of clowns coming up to you. But for people who are really being serious, and there's a genuine authenticity to how they're approaching you, you have to wonder, how did I attract this, or why didn't I attract something else?
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. So I'm about to come to you, Colleen, on this. But y'all, if you're just tuning in, this is Successful but Single podcast. We're doing our thing without a ring. I am your host, Natalie Freeman. I am here with my fellow podcasters, Mr. Benja and Ms. Colleen Kavanaugh. We are talking about the pros and cons of preferences, y'all. Are preferences being picky? Or it's just, that's my protection of what I want, especially as it relates to relationships, right? Because y'all, again, preferences are how really the world runs, right? Again, you can choose to live in South America, North America, Asia, Australia, right? You can choose to, drive a Beamer, or, you know what I mean? A Maybach, you can choose whatever. So, that is how we live life, right? So why is this such a thing when it comes to relationships? Colleen, Ben said something pretty cool, and I want you to chime in on this. Have you been preparing yourself around certain people for who you want to portray, when you're dating, or in social settings, professional settings, networking settings, where you're hoping to nab the eye of a man, when that audience?
Okay, so we lost Natalie. I don't know. Can you guys
Yes, we
comment?
did.
Can you hear Colleen and Benja? Go ahead and make a comment if you can hear us. But I'm going to try and answer her question. Have I been preparing myself? Because I think that is important, like you said, to prepare yourself to be available. Go ahead and comment if you can hear me talking right now. Because Benja, can you hear me?
I can
Yeah,
hear you,
okay.
Colleen.
Okay. Oh, there she is. Okay, good.
Am I back? Am I back?
Yeah, you're back. Okay, good. I was just
Oh,
going to answer
Lord.
the question.
Did you hear the question? Okay.
Yeah. So basically your question is, am I preparing myself to prepare myself for whom I'm looking for? Is that what the question is?
Are you preparing yourself? Like, you know what I mean? We evolve into the person we want to portray to the world, especially when it regards to relationships, to catch the eye of some particular person or persons, right? But are we preparing ourselves? Are we bouncing ideas off of one audience when trying to portray ourselves to another audience? And that might be the disconnect. Do you get what I'm saying?
Okay, well, that's interesting. Well, funny you should say that. I had a gentleman that I was dating, who had said, when I first met him, he's like, "Oh, you appeared to be very confident." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm a confident person." But then he seemed to think that me asking to get a phone call from him every day would seem to be needy. And so this is a preference of mine, is to have a good communication, a nice phone call, preferably not at the very end of the night, like I'm the last on your list. This is one of my preferences. So
Mm-hmm,
I would
mm-hmm.
prefer a phone call, if possible, earlier in the day. And especially if we both have a flexible schedule. And in this situation, we both did. So I guess
So it was funny how I was portraying myself, apparently coming across as one way, but then he viewed it as not confident, I guess, or needy because of that one particular thing. So that probably didn't really answer your question, but I try to be myself,
Right.
and come across, obviously you want to come across, positive and confident and things like that. And the rest, just happens later. But I am preparing myself. If I'm looking for something in a man, I want to make sure I'm that person too. Like if I'm looking for a man that's active and healthy and in shape, I
Absolutely.
can't be like 300 pounds. I stay
Absolutely.
healthy. I exercise every day because obviously I'm not going to ask something from a man if I don't have that either. So,
Which I
yes.
love. Which I love. I mean, and Ben, just jump right on in here. Cut me off if you need
Oh,
to, if you wanted to say something. But and I guess what I was saying was you did answer my question in a sense, but I was asking like, who are we like putting up the mirror to when we're trying to prepare ourselves to go out and catch, whatever your preference is? Is it someone who, you know what I mean? Do you have a best friend that fits that preferences, but you all aren't romantically inclined or whatever? Are you bouncing it off a woman, who is the opposite, and you're asking her, girl, am I okay? You know how you ask somebody who has totally different taste in clothes, girl, is this dress cute on me? And she was like, no, you know what I mean? But it was cute to you and you feel confident when you stepped out, but because they like something different, you get what I'm saying? In that regard?
So that was to me.
That was
Correct.
the both of you.
Okay. Since I've already started jabbering, I'll continue.
Yes.
Um, I think that setting yourself up for what you're looking for. I was getting it confused, at least to me in my head, of being able to relate to someone and having a checklist. Um, Maybe they don't, dress the way I would hope. Um, but are they willing to, every Saturday night get dressed up and go out somewhere? If they're more the extrovert, are they okay with me being at home while they go out? And do we really relate? Because a lot of these, and this is just to me, I'm not saying anybody else should think like this, just my perspective. All the little superficial things or the checklist items, aside from red flags, I've recently started to let go of those. And I just let people know very quickly and upfront. It's like, hey, listen, I know I'm going out right now. I don't go out very much. I'm usually a homebody, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, okay, well, he happened to meet me out here, but he's not the go out type. Thanks for letting me know. And just
Mm-hmm.
continually communicating um, who I am, my preferences, so at least they're not shocked by anything that I do, or
Exactly. And
you
I
know,
think that's important that we communicate who we are so people will know and then they can identify like, oh yeah, I think we should ride this out, get to know each other, explore deeper. Or, maybe this is best suited for a business deal, not for a boost situation.
it's it's uncomfortable though because right off the bat, when you start saying things like, "Oh, yeah, you go ahead and order this type of food or whatever," I don't really do that, and all of a sudden
Mm-hmm.
it's like, wait, what is this person saying? Are they saying, I'm a terrible eater and I need to get my diet together, or are they saying, I'm terrible because they're vegetarian or vegan and I'm not? It could, a lot of thoughts start running through our heads.
Absolutely.
But when people get used to you bringing up things and talking it out early, I think it cuts out so many, problems later on down the line and
Mm-hmm.
avoids a lot
Mm-hmm.
of those red flags I think we were
Mm-hmm.
referring to.
Yeah, people in the chat, are you listen as you're listening? Does really being open cause a certain level of vulnerability from you, where you're kind of exposing yourself? And are you confident enough to share your preferences? Or do you really hold back because you are concerned that your preferences are going to, cause people to run away? Y'all tell us about that. How do you feel about that? That's a very good point, Ben. I wanted to read a comment from Todd. He says, picky preferences can prevent us from settling from someone that we will resent later. I want to read that slowly. I might need to read that again. Picky preferences can prevent us from settling from someone that we will resent later. How many people do you know, y'all, in relationships where they're just like, you know what, well, we've already entered in, I'm not going to back out, but this really does not align with my vision in life, my personal values. I mean, hell, they don't even do the same hobbies I enjoy, and you don't always have the same hobbies, but at least if you can't tolerate them, like, I am not a baseball fan, y'all. I am not going to sit up in nobody's game for 9 innings, okay? I'm just not going to do it. Well, I don't know. The right one come along, I may try to suffer through it, but that's just a long time for something I don't enjoy. You get what I'm saying? But he's saying, that can prevent us from being somebody, with somebody we'll resent later. But many people sabotage themselves with preferences that keep them choosing the wrong people. Ooh, Todd, I might have to sing you some.
Wait, repeat that last part.
What you say, Ben?
Repeat that second part.
But many people sabotage themselves with preferences that keep them choosing the wrong people. Mm-hmm. Colleen Kavanaugh, have your preferences kept you in a cycle of insanity?
Yes. Yes.
That well, keep choosing the wrong people. Talk about it, Colleen Kavanaugh. Go.
Well, I don't know if it was the wrong people, but I was a little too picky. So this is where I analyzed some things like in my late 20s, early 30s. I used to be a gym rat. And I wanted my man to be like muscular and like that was like, it was all about the aesthetics, Mm-hmm. So clearly that's not important, now that I'm in my 40s. So it's like, that's not as important. Yeah, I want them to be healthy, but it's okay if you got a dad bod, but as long as you're not like, as long as you're not like, couch potato either, I still want my man to be active. And I'm hoping that if I can encourage, they would be open-minded to being more active, and he would just naturally get, in shape. But I mean, I can't have anybody, not just for aesthetic purposes, but as we grow older, I mean, I don't want my man with health issues because they're obese mm-hmm. or something. Right. So, and everything else that's related to health issues as well. So, but I'm not looking for the aesthetics as much anymore. So I did make a mistake. So I'm sure I cut out a lot of people on that. So I've definitely gotten better in that area.
Mm-hmm. Y'all, anybody in the chat, will you be candid that your preferences left you in that crazy cycle of insanity that had you keep choosing the wrong people, y'all? And I'm going to have to chime in with Colleen on that one because, I was looking, I always consider myself a boss babe, y'all, like it or lump it or whatever.
You are.
Thank you for the affirmation, but you know what I mean? But, I always thought, my person has got to be like that too. You know what I mean? That corner office, just so driven on your grind all the time, money, not always like money is the priority, but just always on their grind. But I had to learn over time, like if I'm with a person like that, one, I don't rest because we are pushing each other just to work all the time, right? We tend to be workaholics, right? And I was learning that, like if you're on your grind, I'm on your grind, we're never gonna see each other either. You get what I'm saying? Like we like them passing ships because I'm grinding, you grinding, our schedules may not coincide. And so like, that's just one example, y'all. I got plenty for sure. You know what I mean? Light skin, dark skin, white, black. Come on now, y'all. We can go into this all night about your preferences, but then I kind of realized that, somebody who is in a different industry, right? Maybe an 8 to 5 person will allow me to take a break. Have me, make me have a cutoff point where I can come home and chill. You know what I mean? And so y'all, you kind of really have to be honest with yourself about whether these preferences are really kind of hurting, really, you as far as staying in that status of single or even that status of stuck. If you with somebody who's just kind of really learn how to conform and be comfortable, living within your bubble of preferences. Did you anybody else in the chat answer that question, or even guess if you want to answer that question about your preferences? Have they caused you to kind of be uncomfortable? Because now you really need to tell them what your standards are, or what you favor. And has that caused you to shy away from even stating what your preferences are because you don't like to feel uncomfortable? And is being uncomfortable like a bad thing? Either one of you want to answer that? We can check and see what they say in the chat.
Colleen?
Oh, yeah. Oh, so what was the question? Or what our preferences are? Well, let's see. I know that when you call it some basic preferences that some people might have an issue with, like height or ethnicity or hair or no hair. Those are actually pretty easy for me. I'm pretty flexible with that. With all of those, I kind of like. I don't mind bald. In fact, I kind of like bald, but hair is good too. But I have no problem with bald, especially if it's a black bald. I don't know. The Caucasian guys
All
aren't.
All right.
I don't think they're as good looking as but I will tell you, yes, for many years.
And bald is in now. See, we've made it in vogue now too.
Okay. I'm just going to tell it like it is since we're talking about preferences. But I tend to be more attracted to a darker complected men. Mm-hmm. And for years, that's kind of all I would consider. But over the years, the last few years, I'm like, okay, let me, widen my, choices here and go back to, the lighter skin guys. But that's not an issue for me. Height is not an issue. But yeah, as far as like ethnicity, I've dated all different cultures. I used to work on a cruise ship where we were working with 70 other countries. So I'm used to I love the different cultures and everything. So that's not really an issue. Height is not a big deal to me. In fact, I like them more around they don't have to be like tall, like 6'5". I don't necessarily need that. Just, about my height or so. So those basic things there I got that down. But it's more about the personality and how they treat me and some of those things that I'm being a little pickier on when it comes to that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So y'all, if you're just tuning in, Successful but Single podcast, we're doing our thing without a ring. I'm your host, Natalie Freeman, chatting it up with my fellow podcasters, Mr. Benja and Colleen Kennedy. We're talking about preferences. So y'all, let's just talk about preferences for a minute. Todd was telling me, she said it was funny that I mentioned baseball because there was a female minister who had married a baseball player, and she hated the game, right? And so, but she pretended to love it, when they were dating, and she finally confessed, when they got married, that she hated it, and then she stopped supporting it. And like, does that hurt their feelings at the time? Is it just because now you're married and committed on a whole nother level, you just kind of work through it, you know what I mean? But I'm telling you, like, that baseball thing, I don't know. So let's talk about just a few preferences for a minute, y'all, because preferences, like you said, can be protection. It could be just helping you set yourself up for your level of success, or they could be totally, I don't want to say superficial, y'all, because I think it's very important that when you wake up in the morning that you like what you see. Can I get an amen?
Oh, yeah.
Right, exactly. So let's just talk about for a minute, y'all. We're going to have a little lightning round, and y'all can throw it in the chat too. But I'm going to throw it out, and then I want Colleen to answer first, Ben to answer second, and we're going to keep it rolling. Short or tall preference? And don't think too long. Short or tall preference?
Colleen's supposed to go first.
Yeah, medium. I don't care. I mean, not like too short. Of course not. No, my height.
I said don't think too long. Here she go. Medium. Ben?
Like 5'6" and higher. 5'7".
Yes, I will confess to petite, small,
Okay,
short.
okay, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Hair, no hair. Oh, and me tall. I prefer tall. Hair, no hair.
Either.
Okay, either.
Uh,
Ben.
hair is a whatever thing. As long as you're rocking it, you're confident, and you like it. Mermaid stripes, go. I don't care.
All right, I love it. I love it, y'all. I used to have this really thing for men with dreads. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Never seemed though to date any man that had hair. So yeah, there we go for that. So what do you do with these preferences, right? When you just end
I,
up
I was
connecting.
I was too late. I was too late getting my locks. Is that
Too
what you're saying?
late, brother. You're too late. Because
Uh,
when I'm telling you, when I did come out of California, that time I said, "Oh, Ben has grown his hair out." Darn it. Okay. Anyway, that was a little confession on the live. Anyway, let's see. Um, hmm, American or other from different ethnicities.
I probably prefer American.
Okay.
Actually, I don't know. Because
Mm.
I've run across people from other ethnicities where I'm like, holy crap, that's the most interesting thing I've ever heard. And you go back home and you're like looking up Pakistani culture or something. You're like, what is this about?
Yeah.
Um, but a couple other times it's been like, I don't know, that's supremely uninteresting to me. So I don't know. I have no preference there, I guess.
No
I
preference.
guess,
I love it. And the people are chiming um, in their chat here. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Nancy Cologne likes tall. Desiree Nelson likes tall. Latanya Riley likes tall. Nancy said both are fine though. Let's see. Ooh, y'all, I can't see. I told my guests a little secret about my eyes right now. Nancy Cologne prefers American. Nancy Cologne also says ball is great. Latanya Riley says American. Y'all keep it up in the chat. Keep it up. Thank you for engaging with us this evening. So again, y'all, we're just talking about preferences. These things really, right? They may not make or break a relationship. Cook, non-cook. Oh, come on now. I'm gonna tell you, don't mind for me. I have prayed. Not only do I prefer, I have sought a divine and higher
Mm.
source for somebody that cooks.
well, I tell you, my preference, yes, would be a man that cooks. That would be amazing, of course, so we can share the duties. Oh, but I wanted to go back to the last question. I guess it doesn't matter if they're American or not, as long as they have a command of the English language, because I'm kind
Mm-hmm.
of weird about, because that's just
Okay.
my thing about
Okay.
speaking properly or speaking well. But of
Okay.
course, if English isn't your first language, then no, it's not going to be perfect. But I don't want to be able to struggle understanding. So they can be, from another country, but as long as they can, speak English well.
Okay, no, absolutely. And again, that is your preference, right?
Yeah.
That is your preference. Ben?
Uh, Cooking, just don't run up the to-go bill, the order out bill. If you can't cook, that's fine. But because I got some of that, we'll survive. But
We'll survive, right, right, right. Wendell Berry says homegrown preferably, but store stone can work. Love it, love it. Love it. Hey, Wendell Berry, how you doing? How you doing? How you doing? I love it.
Not 90
Oh
days.
goodness, to say yes, cook and sing for me, honey. All
and,
right,
and
you want
sing.
a cooker and a singer. I love it. Ooh, now that is a good question right there, and then we will go back to the questions. But artistic or not, y'all? Because I was married to a drummer for many years. I do prefer an artist. What about you all?
Oh, they
Not
don't
just
have to be.
a musician. That could be acting, right? Any of the arts, right?
Yeah,
So yeah.
they don't have to be an artist. Well-rounded is always nice too. But
Hmm.
yeah, whatever.
And let's see
Uh,
what the artist Benja says.
all right, this is like a yin and yang thing. Like, I rock with artists and creative types, but given a preference, you can't have two of us just being weird and out of control doing whatever. So it can't have two artistic types. Just
Because artists are different, y'all. Artists are different. Okay, they're different to live with. Come on, they're different to talk to. Like it's like we
yeah,
speak these different languages.
yeah. I can't come, back home. Like, what is all this artistic stuff? That's my job. Oh my gosh, just changing everything. I don't believe this. So it's just too weird.
So it's too weird to have two artists. Okay, so he
But
prefers a little
it's just a
balance.
preference, but not
Exactly, just
like
a preference,
not.
y'all. So if anybody kind of been scoping, been out, and you are artistic now, don't shy away. Now, this doesn't mean that he won't, entertain you. You know, Todd says here she doesn't cook. Me and our future kids will die from hunger. 2 blocks from Walmart. Okay, so apparently he needs somebody who can cook in his life. Y'all help him out. Okay, y'all help him out. But y'all, this is good, right? Because when you're in your groups, when you're in your groups, whatever your groups are, your business groups, your single groups, your church groups, you're going out horseback riding groups. It's okay, y'all, to talk about where we are, and what we like. It is also okay, y'all, too, to be different, right? And embrace our differences, because this person may not ultimately end up to be your life partner, if that's what you desire. You know what I mean? But how many great business deals came from just being able to communicate your preferences and respect the preferences of others, right? How many great business deals? How, again, how many good relationships? You know what I mean? There are people that I never thought that what I kind of rock with, you know what I mean? Until we really just start talking, or you really had time to observe people in their space. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yep. Colleen, did you want to say anything?
Not really. No, I think I'm good. I'm
Okay.
good.
Okay. Because this is really your show now. This is really your question. This question has come to life.
I will ask a question for the audience listening, because my post was, how do you tell the difference between you being too picky and not settling? And so I guess my question is there a formula that some of you use? Like somebody had said, I think it was in a different singles group on Facebook that I saw this, and they said, or maybe it was this group, but they said they have a list of must-haves. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, let me go down my list. And I go down my list, I'm like, well, most of them are must-haves. So at what point do you draw the line? Is it a must-have? Is it not a must-have? Maybe we can talk about what everybody wants as a must-have, because we all have our list. And do you all agree? So I got a couple questions there. So what are your must-haves, or what is your formula? And another question I'll throw out there is, do you think it's good to be specific? Right? What you're looking for, you should write it down and be specific, or not. So those are a couple questions for you all.
Hey, y'all, come in, and thanks for listening. You heard the questions on the floor. I'm going to give y'all some time to think about it. I'm going to give our guests some time to think about it. Do you have a formula for your preferences? Like what is the line? What is the line that comes from being specific and being picky? Y'all, what's the line with it? Hey, y'all, and thanks for watching. Please share. Hey, Reggie. Hey, Jacinta, I see y'all are watching. Family High in the house.
Jacinta's in the house. What's up?
Reggie even said, y'all, earlier, confidence builds the longer that you know someone. And many times preferences become prevalent when you become comfortable. Let that digest for a minute, right? Confidence builds the longer you know someone. But many times preferences become prevalent when you become comfortable. Do you agree with that statement or not? Y'all, do you have a list? Is it getting in your way? Do you have some formulas for that list? I was talking to a guy one time, and we weren't, romantically involved. And I think that's important to say that, because he was saying, like, Natalie, like, this list, extensive, analytical, just quite starchy, if I might add. And he was like, sis, look, that list of 10, you might be happy if you get 5 of those, with a commitment to build together, and you all help cultivate the others in each other. So I like the cultivate. Yeah. So the formula for me was, you might need to, have an idea, but be willing to grow into a relationship, y'all. Because most people aren't the people that they're going to evolve into with or without your help. And how do you not know that you two coming together is going to help cultivate and build those other things, not just in them, but in me too, right? So, like, what do y'all think about that? So that was my formula. Like, come up with your non-negotiables, because I think we're all okay to say we have them, right? But you might need to be a little flexible on items 6 through 23, and women with the 50 item list. Like, what we saying about that? Reggie, Ben, I'm sorry, what say ye? Formula, no formula, throwing the list away?
Well, along with must-haves, you also have to consider deal breakers, right? They're kind of like two parts of the same coin. I've loosened up and don't have many of those. As I said, I started letting people know, like, hey, I do this a particular way. It has nothing to do with you. Don't worry about trying to conform to X, Y, or Z. I just want you to be you. And if I need
then they say, well, why are you mentioning them then?
Well, exactly. I don't. That's a good question, because
being devil's advocate. Keep on going.
No. Being yourself is difficult when you're trying to consider what the other person might, get from that and think that you're trying to communicate. So I run into a lot of problems where it's like, oh, I just do that. I'm not trying to communicate anything necessarily to you. So like, if silly stuff like getting out of bed early and making up your how for the bed, someone's like, what are you trying to say? I'm not trying to say anything. It's just something I do. So must-haves and deal breakers, the must-haves, the ability to work with me, work through problems, work through trying out new things. I suppose this is the artistic creative side, where I'm used to things not being right and not going perfectly correct. Somebody that can stop and say, oh, okay, you know what? We'll change plans. We'll do this. We'll adjust. So flexibility is pretty much the only must-have. And as far as deal breakers, don't intentionally try to piss me off or do something sabotage, or some subterfuge that's intentional. That just I'm like, oh, why would you do that? Just if it means that much to you, just tell me and we'll work it out. The subterfuge and intentionally trying to frustrate me for some reason to get me to think about something is just, I can't deal with it.
Oh, hey, guess what? Okay, remember, I'm sorry, guys. I just had a thought. Natalie, remember when we had this question? You and I were talking about it over the phone, and you posed it on this site here on the web in the group. And and it was, I'm just going to throw this out for y'all to vote for this. I guess you could call her preference. The question was, what if you ended up meeting this amazing guy that was like nice and he met all of your requirements, or girl, okay, a potential partner, and they had an issue and you could not be intimate with this person. Okay. Just use your imagination. Maybe there was a health issue, but you know this from the get-go. It's not like you got married and then something happened. You know this from the get-go, and they meet all your other preferences, but the intimacy is going to be an issue. So,
and y'all, by intimacy, we mean sex.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
No amount of, okay, let's just put it this way. If you're a gal.
Somebody said deal breaker already. They don't even think they let you finish the sentence.
For the ladies, do you even want to deal with them having to take like some medicine, the whatever it is,
and that's women,
stuff.
Right?
Like, would you have to, would you want that? I don't know, but we're talking about the older folks now, maybe some of the older,
not necessarily.
Well, not necessarily. You're right. So yeah, LaTanya says that's a deal breaker.
Yeah, I don't even think she let you get the question out.
Oh my, I'm like, woo.
So y'all, hey, we being candid tonight. We're talking about preferences, y'all. And preferences can mean anything from short, tall, Asian, American. It can mean money, no money, right? It can mean sexually oriented, the way you fantasize or not. Y'all, so talk about it. That is a question I did put in our podcast group. Y'all join us, Accessible Single Podcast Group. We have provocative conversation every week, podcast polls, midweek, weekend. We're just talking because these are things that we need to be comfortable discussing when we're talking about relationships, right? So we talk about it all. And I did pose that, you go, what if everything, what's the person that everything on your list could not perform sexually? Is that a deal breaker for you, or would you hang on, hold on, look for some alternatives, right? Because that may not be everything to you. So here we go. We got some questions going on in the chat. Go ahead, Ben.
Well, I think that, the intimacy, and what we define as a deal breaker or not, a lot of that to me comes in play when you're thinking about what a relationship means to you and what your definition of a relationship would be. So if you're talking about intimacy, it's like, hey, we're in a relationship. Oh, when's the last time you got intimate? Oh, we don't do that. It just, that definition might not fit for people. But for some people, the relationship is about, hey, we travel, we tell each other our problems, da da da. Intimacy isn't really a thing. And I've known couples like that, and it's like, oh, interesting. All right. That doesn't fit my definition of a relationship, but and I think in the communication, deciding, hey, what's a relationship to you? What's a relationship to me? And does that coincide? Exactly. And I think figuring that out early is important to me. I don't know how you feel about that.
You want to take a stab at that, Colleen, before I jump in?
Can you repeat the last part? I was reading the comments and
thinking
of something in the past. Go ahead. Thinking of my own situation. Oh Lord. Okay.
Well, I was just saying, figuring out what a relationship means to you might not be what a relationship means to the other person. So, as I said, is intimacy just a really nice thing to have, or is it essential to the idea of a relationship? Because if it is essential and you don't have it, then by your definition, you don't have a relationship. So I was just curious about, discussing the definition of a relationship for the both of you.
I see. Yeah. Well, let's just say I was kind of, gosh, how do I say this nicely? I found out that there was a possibility.
This is an adult show, I think, as far as I know. You can go ahead and speak freely.
Well, I just don't want to incriminate the person. Somebody in the past.
Are they watching? Are they still stalking?
No, I don't.
Go ahead.
So anyway, but his friends might be. But
watch out there.
No. Actually, so my question so the situation was, I kind of knew there might be an issue, and I even prepped myself and prayed about it. I'm like, what if, I'm like, oh, well, I can work around that. Certainly we could do this. I could do that. If I have to use a toy, I didn't really want to. I want the real thing. But I mean, I was like trying to be as open-minded as possible because I thought this guy was like really cool. But I decided it's definitely a needed thing. And I can't believe I'm talking about this because
for the world, I might add. So yeah, just temper whatever.
I hope that nobody.
This podcast was in 27 countries at one time. I don't know where we are now.
Somebody, in the past. Okay, so
absolutely.
In the past,
and again,
so no one's gonna know who it is.
And again, y'all, this is important. This is important. And somebody brought it up in the comments. I think it was Wendell Berry. When we're talking about preferences, or we're talking about really standards that, we're going to set our guidelines for our relationships by, or are they fantasies? And I think it's very important that we know the difference, right? And we're able to differentiate. And is that realistic when it comes to the partner you're with? So for me, a part of relating definitely has physical components, right? Because it's a part of my love language. Colleen just dropped a very good
Mm-hmm.
post, y'all, in the Successful but Single group, and I just have it on the bottom of the screen. Y'all join us. Successful, search it right now, but not right now because we on the live. Successful but Single podcast at in your Facebook group. Join us. Ask to be added to the group because we're talking about it all. But she put a very good post about love languages not too recently in the chat. And it's important that you know how you want to be loved. You're able to communicate how you're to be loved, but you're also willing to listen to how your partner wants to be loved as well. And so for me, quality time, physical touch is very important to me. And so it would need to be a dynamic in my relationship. Have I had amazing relationships with people where our intimacy included so much more that physical, really was not primary? Absolutely. You know what I mean? I tell people all the time, make love to my mind, especially first, and you've got me. You know what I mean? So you've got to be willing to communicate these preferences and be vulnerable, potentially be shot down or looked over, or, you know what I mean? Or thanks, but no thanks, right? But are you confident enough that what you're putting out in the world is eventually going to land you what you desire? You know what I mean, y'all? So, hey, this is important. So, we kind of joked around with that question. Colleen and I did talk about it on the phone. I did put it in the group because I just thought it was a good question. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely. If you don't mind, Natalie, that was a very important post about the love languages, and I just wanted to read those off really quickly, if you don't mind. We
Yeah,
had
please.
the
Help us, Benja.
it's they're important in relationships, and there's a whole 5 love languages things that you can go look up later. But in brief, it's how we communicate our love in our relationship, and there are 5 of them. Number 1, words of affirmation. Number 2, acts of service. Then there's 3, receiving gifts. 4, physical touch. And 5, quality time.
If
So
somebody got them, you can go ahead and put those in the chat. I was trying to, but yeah, I got lost. Can
yeah,
you
those
repeat them for
are
us again, Benja?
yes, words of affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts, physical touch, and quality time.
Y'all, if you want to go ahead and throw your love language, just in case Boo might be watching with you. You know what I'm saying? And you want to go ahead and put your love language or your top 1 or 2 in the chat. Go ahead. Of course, I think at some point in my life, or even in my relationship, I appreciate them all, right? But my top 2, y'all, without a doubt, have to be quality time, physical touch, and then number 3, words of affirmation. This I know about myself. I'm very upfront about communicating that because I have to give person the space, the comfort, and the willing to buy in if they're willing to give that to me, right, y'all? So you be okay with communicating it. Y'all, I will tell you, I'm a bit pushy, so I'm working on tempering, timing. You know what I mean? To communicate these things, but I want it to be known. And again, that comes from me and my background. I used to be married. One thing that I feel caused the demise of our marriage was our lack of communication. So people around me now, I'm like, I just tell you, I just tell it, and not necessarily be rude or disrespectful, but I just let you know because I don't want you to ever be confused. If I like you, you're gonna know. If I don't like you, you're gonna know, not necessarily in a rude way, but you're just gonna know that you are my preference, you are my time. This isn't the season, you are my choice. You get what I'm saying? Because I don't have time. I'm just saying. Y'all, this is Successful but Single podcast. We're doing our thing without a ring, having a great conversation, y'all, with Benja, Colleen Kavanaugh, and all of you have been watching and holding on and just chatting with us the entire time. We're talking about preferences, y'all. Everybody's got them. I don't care what you say. Everybody has preferences, but are they poison to us, y'all? Or are they preserving our character and preparing us for our future in this relation, in this particular conversation, preparing us for our future boo? You know what I'm saying? So y'all, like any wrap up words, because we said we were gonna do this thing for 30 minutes, and it's been an hour and 12 minutes.
Well, I tell you, love language, that's a whole nother podcast
It is.
episode. So, but yeah, I just wanted to, um, I don't know. This has been some good stuff here.
Yeah.
So, settling and picky. Again, my ultimate question
Yep.
is, how do you know if you are too picky? But you know what? I put this up in a different group, and this we got lots and lots of answers. It was really interesting. Oh no, wait. Somebody, oh no, this was anyway. Somebody commented, "Well, don't we settle a little bit?" And she was right. We technically do settle a little because no one is absolutely, no one is perfect. No one's going to meet all of our list. So that was a good point. She said, "Oh, of course we do settle on some things, but I guess the question is, what do you decide on? You have to have, you have to have your must-haves and then the deal breakers. And between that, I guess it's all about what you can put up with or what you
Yeah.
can live with. And yeah, I don't know. It's all
Do
going to
we
work out.
settle, or do we have to understand that in every relationship, y'all, business relationship, physical relationship, romantic relationship, even familial relationships, there has to exist some level of compromise. Ben,
Oh,
Ben,
you're
did you
muted.
mute yourself?
I think you're muted.
I'm sorry, the tamale guy walking by and shouting, so I didn't want that to blend into the podcast. We have a tamale guy in our neighborhood, California. So. Speaking
Love
of,
it.
yeah, speaking of that though, it I maybe it's I'm out here in California and all these woo woo people talking about spirituality and doing yoga in their front lawns. Maybe this is part of it, but I don't like the idea of settling, and I can't
Okay.
apply that to myself anymore. I
Mm-hmm.
look at any any compromise that might happen as growth. I'm learning how to be more myself, not in spite of something happened, but in the presence or yeah, I don't have a better word for in spite of something happening, but I still want to grow, still want to be myself. I don't see myself settling, but just
Mm-hmm.
continuing to move on my path without regards to somebody else's or my problems with what I see in
Yeah.
somebody.
And grow, right?
Always.
I think continuing to, well, I mean, I just feel like not settling, trying to become your best self, to me is equivalent to
Yeah.
growth.
I have a quick story.
Say it.
Because back in my pickier days before I came to California and really started meditating and all that stuff, growing my hair out. um Before that, I was with and I was being I had the communication part going, so I was keeping lines of communication open. And pretty early on, the girl I was talking to said, you know and she kind of looked at me with these eyes. We were about to go out. She said, I like to fart. And I didn't know what to do with that at all. It just
I
it's
was not
just
ready for that.
exactly. I wasn't either. She was looking all cute and everything, and she says this like in a very serious manner, and I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. And my picky brain just started to start picking out things all over the place. My preferences just, turned to nitpicking and questioning. And, I don't know. I don't know if that question was a red flag or she was just being weird, or because I'm weird, she was like, you know what?
Or she
This is a
was
weird
testing
dude.
you.
I don't know. I have no idea. But whatever the case may be, I I torpedoed that one, and it could have been something better, but I will never know, because
The
once I heard
relationship
that,
could have been something better.
yes, I totally torpedoed it.
Really ixnayed her for her fondness with flatulence.
it wasn't even that. It's just like, okay, who would say this? What does that even mean? Can I deal with that? I guess so. I mean, crack a window, we'll keep moving. Um, I don't know. I just didn't know. But what it caused me to do was start being way too picky in this situation. And
Oh gosh.
so it just went bad because of that
Mhm,
pickiness. And
mhm, mhm,
years later, I was like, man, I was kind of hard on her. I don't know
mhm.
why she said that. I need to grow up a little bit myself. So
Yeah, because I mean, don't we all do it? Y'all in the chat, are your preferences petty? Come on now. Are your preferences petty? Look, listen. At the end of the day, I think we all have some things that we know that we're just going to have to adjust to, right? Are your preferences petty? Yeah, I know, right? I know, Tracy. That's totally true. That's the answer us
I'm
all on.
sorry.
But Christine, though, Christine said like she totally understands you. She feels you. Y'all on the same wavelength. Y'all need to talk about that.
No, I'm weird now. Let me know anything.
See there, yeah. You here for it all, right? You here for it all. So, Colleen, did we help you any in this conversation today? Is our preferences being picky? Are they for protection?
Oh, that's good.
Did you get
Protection.
a, did you get a did you get a formula here? What say ye?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know that it's just my own, personal, list. And like somebody said in the comments, settling is overrated. And that's
I wanted her to expound on that too. I asked her to.
That's true. I look at some couples that I know that I've seen have been married for a long time, and I can see that, somebody might not be happy in the relationship, but yet they're still together. So something they're hanging on, they're focusing on something that's good to keep them, I guess, going through it. But it's I don't know. It's just something I'm going to have to figure out myself and be more flexible and more patient. But sometimes there's those deal breakers
Yeah.
that we already just discussed a few minutes ago. And no matter everything else that meets the list, if that one thing is not being met, then I will say, Dr. Seuss, I wanted to throw a little quote in here. Dr. Seuss said, "You know you're in love when you can't fall asleep because reality is finally better than your dreams."
I like it.
Oh,
I like it. I
So
like it.
So eventually we will find
Come on,
someone
Dr. Seuss, come through with the wisdom.
Yeah.
I said, come on, Dr. Seuss, come through with the wisdom.
Yeah. So no, this has been good. A great conversation.
No, it has been good. And y'all, if you're wondering, this is why I do those midweek polls, the weekend polls, because I want to hear from you. This is how we get the content from our podcast. As you can see, they're always provocative, always just comical. But at the end of the day, I hope it's helping you with your introspection and most importantly, your growth. You know what I mean? Y'all, we do have some what I consider subject matter experts and professionals just kind of listening in today. And in our group, they're going to be dropping some resources for us based on our conversation today. So make sure you go back and check out the comments. Go back and reread the comments. If you found somebody provocative, if somebody threw out some preferences that kind of caught your eye and you want to, say, hey. Go ahead. That's what the public forum is for. That's what it's for. That's why we do this live. That's why we do this public. You know what I mean? Y'all know stalking, no disrespect, right? Ever. Not on my watch. But come on, let's interact. Let's engage, y'all, because who knows? The purpose of these conversations and the reason that we're out here, being vulnerable with you is maybe, to help you go further in life and find your person. Or most importantly, find yourself. Okay.
I have one more thing to add on the formula part. Somebody brought this to my attention and it was very helpful. Y'all probably heard of it, but I hadn't. You have your pros and cons list and that's good, but then you give them weight.
And so that's what I did, like 1 to 10, so that
Yep.
was a really good formula that I
That
found.
is
Okay,
good.
how important is this pro? So that
Mm-hmm.
I think was really helping me decide the balance between, okay, is this going to work or is it not going to work? Because this is a pro, but this is really heavy. This is worth a good 10 points. Where this pro is like, okay, it's only about, 3 points. So, whatever. So I thought that was a really good way to look at things, pros and cons, and weigh them out, give them a point value.
I like
Any
that.
thoughts on that, Benja?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part.
Oh, I was just talking about the pros and cons and putting a point
Yes.
value on them. Have you ever done anything like that before when you're looking at whether you should date this person, if you think that you should stick with them?
No, okay, so I heard everything I just didn't hear the very last part, but that's okay. I got the gist. No, no, I don't. I really found myself running into, and I really consider myself a different type of individual on a lot of thought levels. So um, for me, I just don't want to start trying to define somebody because I've never really found that match that works. What I found works would go against my list, and
Come on, Ben.
because everything that's starting to work, I'm like, wow, I'm really vibing with this person, but they do this one thing over here, and they do this thing that I would have written them off for.
Yeah.
It can come down to simple stuff like they don't like sci-fi, and then I might like, oh my gosh, they don't like sci-fi, start going down this weird train of thought. Like, what does that mean?
Weird.
Are they gonna mind when I go watch Star Wars, at an inopportune time? But those kinds of things, having these checklists haven't been beneficial to me. So I've really stopped doing that and have started to be more concerned with, can we communicate? Can we vibe on certain levels? Do we have similar value systems
Yeah.
that aren't related to the more superficial or the more checklist based items that are harder to define?
How
I love
about
it.
you, Natalie? Natalie, or the audience listening, feel free to chime in. Do you have a checklist or a pros and cons list at all? And if you do, how many like on your checklist? If you have preferences or a checklist, how many do you have? Is it 20? Is it 10? Is it 50? What's your checklist? How do you rate your checklist? How much is on your checklist? That's what I want to know. So put that in the comments. Now,
Oh, I love it.
they
Don't
will
you love it when you just have all these podcasts and they just take over and they just become the host? I love it.
Okay. Well, so Natalie, this is going to be aired in the future, correct?
Yes, it is streaming live. We will rebroadcast it in the group, and it will be y'all on all your streaming platforms. We stream on Libsyn, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio. Check us out. Oh, Spotify.
Okay.
So yes, to answer your question, y'all, on the Successful but Single podcast, I do have a list. I do have a list that and maybe I really like Colleen's idea. I maybe should assign some weights to them. I have a list for me because I have a value system that I really would like to preserve. I think, my partner, whether it's present, lifetime, whatever, I feel like, that we have to have a certain level of connection based on certain things. There are things on that list that are non-negotiable. I even keep yeah, yes, I wrote the list and then I took a picture of the list. I put the picture of the list on my phone. I was considering putting it in the chat tonight. We'll see if I'm bold enough to do so. But if there is about 20 things on the list, y'all. However, they're my desires, and I realize that some of them will not make or break my relationship, but there are things that I desire to have, and I am in a state in my life where I'm gonna go for the goal, and as many of those things that I can attain, and many of those things really do coincide with a successful relationship in my book. I'm gonna try to check them off. However, I'm not tethered to it. If that makes sense. Is that fair enough?
That's
Okay.
fair.
Yeah.
So no list for Ben. The hell with the list. Sorry, Pastor, if you're watching. Me, Liz, Colleen Kavanaugh.
Yeah. So I was just thinking, I just put in the comments, you have 20. I only have 14, so I don't feel so bad. But it's funny because I have this checklist, but then when I meet a guy,
I really will look it up and let you know how many I have. But go ahead.
Well, things start coming up and I add to the list, so
Right.
I might have only had this, but then I realized, oh, okay, I guess I have to write this down because this is important. I didn't think, there's things like, well, you don't think you'd have to write it down, but
yeah, right.
Todd's got a few things there.
Todd, what you say, Todd Smith?
Yeah, he said something. He's got a complete list. Oh, that's a good idea. He's got a complete. Oh, that's a great idea. So must-haves list, preferences list, and deal breakers list. Ooh.
Okay, Todd Smith, look at you.
Okay.
Oh, breaking it down, helping us compartmentalize our thoughts and compartmentalize not in a bad way, more of organizing, right?
That's
Get
good.
in your box.
Yeah, I'm scrolling this list now. I think it might be more than 20 on here. I don't know if I'm wrong. I don't know if I'm publishers or not. Yeah. What'd you say, Ben?
Nothing. Carry on.
Tracy used to have 110 things on her list.
Hey, Tracy, thank you.
You're getting the wow emoji on that one, Tracy.
Yeah, but then Tracy said, I guess she's married now. So she said spouse. So why are you even on this podcast? No, I'm just kidding. So
she's
Tracy,
our subject matter expert in our group. She's
okay. So
relationship coaches.
Is she the one who wrote the book?
Yes, she's the one that wrote the book. And she also had Soul Detox for single women.
Okay. So, and then she said by the time she found her spouse, she had dwindled it down to 2. So,
wow. What? Girl, that's a whole podcast. What's the 2? Give me the 2. Come on.
Yeah, let's hear it. I want to know.
Those, sister. And I love it. And see, that's a whole nother podcast. Like, what process did she go through to narrow a list that had 100 and something down to 2? Y'all, Tracy, look, we're gonna have to have another conversation because I want to know that process. Is our minds too cluttered when we have 100 things going on that we think are preferences? Oh, Tracy, that's good, girl. I am intrigued.
Okay, so I will tell you,
that would stress me out.
Talking about
yes.
No, I mean, being on the other end of it, if I just kind of see somebody mentally like, okay, he doesn't like cheese, or something. I'm like, okay, what are you giving? Do you have a 110 item checklist? What are you doing? And this actually happens in my mind. What are they checking off? So
yeah, and are people showing people these lists, right? Because that like not scare the crap out of some people? Like if you see some people's lists, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, we can go on and on with this all night. Like we really could, because I know people have whipped out that list, y'all, on date 1, right? And how'd that work for you? So yeah, but because I'm a talker, you probably will understand my list sooner than later. You may not see it, but we're definitely it's gonna pop up in discussion. Tracy, like those 2, like what's the 2, man? I'm like, I need to know.
She still hasn't
because all her things seem very logical and reasonable, right? At the time, right? They do. That's And Todd says he's not buying only 2 items. We have a lot of things that are subconscious that we don't publish for public consumption. So he calling her on it. He's like, child.
Well, I tell you what, Natalie, one of my, let's just say one of my, non-negotiables is, the man must be a Christian man. But then if they're treating me like a jerk and they're not communicating with me very well, or maybe they're not understanding my love languages, even though I clearly spell it out exactly what I want and he's still not doing it, you know what? A lot of good this Christian man does. Or like, I don't want anybody that does drugs. Oh, well, you know what? I think I'd rather have them high on a little weed or something if they're making me feel loved, or something. I mean, I might have to make some, I'm like, okay, if the guy is an amazing guy,
right? 420 friendly has made all the difference in this relationship. Come on now.
So I'm like, whatever. Okay. I mean, I don't want to marry an atheist, but I mean, I do want someone that's, going to be, a Christian man, but shoot, I mean, if they're not making me feel love.
And are there some Christian men that, you know what I mean, that just partake in the herb? I mean, you know what I mean? Like we can go back and forth with this all night. You get what I'm saying? Is make them less Christian. You get what I'm saying? So yeah, but you're so true. So true in so many regards.
I mean, I was even contemplating like, again, these are all some past relationships I'm thinking of. I was thinking, you know what? I might even like the guy that I thought he was lying to me. I didn't still figure out yet what he was lying to me about, if it was another woman, but at least he made me feel good when he was with me, and he treated me well, and he called me. He was good with communication. And after this other situation, it's kind of like, well, I think I'd rather go back to the guy who was a good communicator. Okay, he was lying to me. Maybe he was even cheating on me, but at least we were enjoying each other's company for the most part.
He was in your presence. You might be open to polyamorous relationships. Maybe. See, I don't know. See, so many questions, y'all, and we are gonna. Oh, y'all, we got some.
That's another one. Would you share your man? Would you stay with your man if you knew he was, or
drop it in the podcast group.
Partner, in the podcast group. We're man or woman, your partner, would you make because I've heard stories, of marriages where they still, they're still with their spouse, even though they knew they were cheating on them, but they still stuck it out because life was good or whatever it was. Maybe those preferences.
We're going down that rabbit hole.
Anyway, but yeah, no ma'am, no sir, Latanya says.
We're going down and we're going down it, y'all. So please stay tuned. This is just the beginning of great conversations that we call our pod chats, right? You'll be seeing those as we weave them in between the conversation that we're also, where we also bring in our subject matter experts, y'all. We're going to talk about relationships, forgiveness, love, sex, polyamorous relationships, emotional intelligence, y'all. It's all coming, but of course, in between, y'all, we've got to talk about these conversations. So tonight was preferences. So y'all, some of y'all have held on to the very end, y'all. It's 9:35. We about to wrap this mug up. But I want to thank my friends, Colleen Kavanaugh. Again, couldn't have started this podcast without you, girlfriend, and my longtime friend, Benjamin, for being on this panel with me tonight, y'all. It's been so great. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for being transparent. Thank you for educating and inspiring our listeners. And thank you all. Like I said, some of y'all have been on from minute one. So thank you all for your comments. If you have any last or parting words, please drop them in the chat. If you have books, drop them in the chat. Make sure you all go to the group. If you're not a member of the Successful But Single Facebook group, please go in there, join now. Also, get on. Listen to these podcasts, listen to these past podcasts, y'all. They are here to inspire you, to educate you, but most importantly, empower you to be the best you can be. Successful but single means if you ever have a boo or a bae, you're gonna be okay because you have done the work to be the best possible you. Okay? Yes, come on, man, represent if you would like some paraphernalia. Email me, DM me, successfulbutsinglepodcast@gmail.com. We can hook you up. We got shirts and some other stuff too. Colleen, thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. I appreciate it. Amazing host and topic. Thank you. Thank you to everybody out there. Thank you, Benja.
Thank you, Colleen, for putting out that question and having me stop and actually think about a lot of this stuff in ways I haven't.
See? So thank you all. Y'all look for the replay. Please share this with your friends. Share it to your page if you haven't. And we will chat with you later.
Okay. Thank you, Natalie.